To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
News team, assemble!
Joining us live, because if you want to know anything about the Outer Banks, Sam Walker's the dude to fill you in.
The sea was angry that day, my friends. Like an old man trying to send back soup in a deli.
Always appreciate talking to you.
Always good stuff with Sam Walker in the Outer Banks.
Now here's Les Nessman and the news.
And good morning, everyone. It is OBX Today for this 6th day of October 2021. Happy Wednesday morning, everybody. I'm Sam Walker. Glad you're along with us for another edition of OBX Today live here on Facebook and YouTube. And, hey, coming up, we got a lot to get to. We continue our breast cancer awareness month series here of Jam Media Solutions, OBXtoday.com, and all of our Jam Media radio stations. And we've been doing this all month. So I've already started. Every day we've got new features that we're posting about breast cancer awareness. And we're going to be talking to from the chief of the American College of Radiology Breast Imaging Commission, Dr. Destunis is going to join us from New York this morning to talk more about staying on top of mammograms, even with the COVID-19 pandemic going on. And we discuss how many people have postponed health care, their general health care, because of the pandemic. And now that even though with the resurgence of the Delta variant and other things, need to start resuming your normal health care routines, even if you are a risk factor with COVID-19. So we're going to talk to her about that and other stuff about breast health in general. We've got that video already up at obxtoday.com. We're going to have her here on the show in just a few minutes. All right, let's get to the day's headlines on this Wednesday morning. First off, the tropics have definitely kind of, for lack of a better term, shut down. We've got nothing really to talk about in the Atlantic right now other than this little lemon head that's off our coast. A little area of disturbed weather that's sitting north of the Bahamas, right off of Cape Canaveral, between us and the Bahamas. It's not really much to look at. Just some clouds and some showers. In fact, let me switch over to what I'm looking at right now on my monitor. and show you we'll zoom in on this image here to give you a better idea of what we're looking at. Really, you can tell. I mean, you see the clouds from this low complex, I'm calling it a complex system because, I mean, it's a combination of frontal boundary and an upper level disturbance that's right over top of basically all the southeast United States. You throw that in the mix with what's left of this disturbance. I say what's left. A few little clusters of showers and storms to the east of the center of this, and it's just an elongated low pressure system. So it's going to interact with what we're getting here in eastern North Carolina over the next couple of days. And we're seeing, you go outside right now, we see a lot more cloud cover today. We are in a better chance of seeing some shower activity today. And really, that's going to keep this from becoming anything. We're not going to get much out of this. And in fact, we're going to get more out of this thing that's been kind of dumping rain all over the southeast United States the last couple of days than we are out of anything tropical. So there's nothing to talk about. This has a 10% chance of tropical cyclone formation in the next 48 hours. It's barely minimal. Not expected to become Wanda, which is the last name on the list. If you go up further north, up here, you can see the tail of what was Hurricane Sam. It's going to continue to bounce around as a post-tropical cyclone, and a pretty big one, between Greenland and Iceland over the next 5 days. But for everything else, there's nothing coming off of Africa. There is one wave here, but there's not expecting any development. We're seeing a little bit of an inhibition as we go on the backside of the peak of hurricane season. Things are looking very, very good right now for us over the next few days when it comes to tropical weather. But our forecast itself doesn't look all that great. Here's today, and actually the next 12 hours, so tonight. Showers off to our west, maybe a pop-up shower possible. Things pretty much look the same tomorrow. It's really about western North Carolina, Tennessee, down into Alabama and Georgia that are going to see the bulk of the rain with this just mess that has parked itself. The low still over Mississippi there, and then just a front, kind of an occluded front, stalled frontal boundary that's kind of just to our north and then out to the west. Same thing on Thursday. Maybe starts to break up a little bit, starts to shift a little east, starts to send a few little scattered showers our way. Here's how things look on Friday. And into, Friday, looks like, again, we're looking at just scattered shower activity for us out of this. This is not going to be a washout by any stretch of the imagination. Are we going to see some showers? Yeah, there's a pretty good chance we're going to see some showers. But it's not going to be just this total rain event. Now, granted, on Saturday and Saturday afternoon, we might see a little bit more of a scatter of more showers on the beaches and in eastern North Carolina as the system finally starts to move its way through. But it still does seem like it's going to be the farther south you go, the better chance of the shower activity. With some rumbles of thunder thrown in as well. Low sitting out here off Cape Fear, currently forecast for Saturday. And then Sunday, it'll start to finally slide slowly up the coast, and we'll see the rain chances decrease as we get into next week. And then finally out of here for the Columbus Day week. But it's going to be comfortable temperatures. We're not going to be, we've been up into the low 80s. Really for the last couple of days, inland areas, and the beaches have been right around 80. That's probably going to continue in terms of the temperatures for the next, really the next week. We're not have yet to get really any good fall weather. We've got one or two cool nights, inland, maybe a few more than that, but things have just kind of gotten into a more moderate pattern. But again, we're going to be dealing with some chances of rain, but not a total washout by any stretch of the imagination. Be prepared for it, especially we know we got a lot of weddings going on this weekend. It is the extended holiday weekend for some. It should be noted that here in North Carolina, Columbus Day is not an official holiday. Even though it's a federal holiday, it is not a state holiday. So schools will be in, and it always catches a lot of folks off guard when they come visit us. That's like, your schools are in today? Yeah, because it's not. We get the day after Thanksgiving off as a state holiday, whereas Columbus Day is a federal holiday, but it's not a state holiday in North Carolina. Just something to keep in mind about Monday. Why is everybody in school? Why is the credit union open, but the banks are closed? Why are all the local government offices open on Monday? Because we don't observe Columbus Day in North Carolina. So there you go. All right, moving on to some other headlines this morning. Let's see. Yeah, we are going to, let's talk about this one here. And Travis Fain at WRAL writing about this agreement that has been reached with the Republican leaders in the legislature and Governor Cooper is a Democrat on a key piece of legislation that has been discussed for several years. Is now going to move forward. This is on revamping the state's energy laws. And what it's going to do is, one, set a 70% carbon reduction goal for the state's power generation sector. That puts Governor Cooper's biggest climate change promise into law. But there's a lot of wiggle room in this. The bill doesn't lay out how Duke Energy, which is the state's largest electricity provider, and has all the power plants here in North Carolina, even though they don't have all the service territory. We, of course, are serviced by Dominion and a number of independent co-ops out here in the Northeast. But Duke Energy always gets all because the headlines, because they're the largest provider of electricity in North Carolina. State regulators said they'll work with the company on the lowest cost plan to cut emissions with their coal-fired plants. Of course, they have their nuclear plants as well. The deadline does allow the measures to move past the initial deadline of 2030. Cooper's administration negotiated the bill behind closed doors with Senate Republicans, called the measure a bold step on Tuesday. Now, in addition to the carbon targets, this bill overhauls the way North Carolina approves electricity rates, giving Duke and Dominion some of the changes they've sought for years to an archaic regulatory system. Among other things, the bill allows for multi-year rate plans, which lets the company seek North Carolina Utilities Commission approval for hikes 3 years at a time instead of coming back repeatedly every year with a required lengthy public hearing process to justify their request. That has been probably the biggest issue in this bill with a lot of folks, and it's going to have an impact on how we pay for electricity in North Carolina. I know, again, I said Duke Energy sought a lot of this. Dominion has been backdoor on this. They've let Duke do all the heavy lifting when it comes to lobbying, but they've been right there involved because, again, they are also, they are northeastern North Carolina's power provider. But they've let Duke do a lot of this, and they've been right along in lockstep with them in terms of trying to get this 3-year plan instead of where electricity rate changes only last 1 year and have to be approved each year. This is going to be a 3-year situation. And when you throw this in with what Duke is going to have to do to pay for the changes they're going to make to their power generation and hand that down to some of the co-ops, some of the co-ops, some of the city-owned utilities, because it's a situation like Elizabeth City, Hertford, and Edenton, they own their own electricity utilities. They buy their power from Duke Energy. Whereas the co-ops and Almo EMC, which services the outside the city limits in Perquimans County and Pasquotank County and other parts, and Roanoke Chowan Co-op, those areas in the Northeast. And when you get on Hatteras Island, you have Cape Hatteras Electric Co-op, and then Tideland EMC, which services the mainland Dare County and all of Hyde County and also Ocracoke. They buy their power from Dominion. So one of the concerns about this bill has come up is that you're going to allow Dominion and Duke set their rates every 3 years. Somebody's going to have to pay for all these upgrades that are going to be required and changes to how the power system, power grid is supplied. Dominion's kind of been ahead of Duke in terms of converting their power plants from coal to natural gas. There's concern that they're going to pass this on to customers rather than cut their profits to pay for it. That they're just going to keep their profits, keep their shareholders happy, and charge customers more to pay for this stuff. There are several groups in North Carolina. The Carolina Utility Customers Association, which represents manufacturers, say they agree with the intent of the bill, but they expect to see large rate increases, both residential as well as commercial. They're hoping that they're wrong, but when we're not, we will see every 30 days for friendly reminder from the utility. That was according to CUCA Executive Director Kevin Martin. Other business groups have backed the bill, including the North Carolina Retail Merchants Association and also the North Carolina Chamber, saying that it will actually puts guardrails in place to keep Duke and Dominion from overcharging. Advocates for the poor shared their own cost concerns, saying lawmakers didn't write in enough protections for low-income families to cushion them on cost increases, not only from the rate-making regulatory changes, but from the cost of overhauling the state's power grid. So there is concerns about what this bill is going to do to not only how much people pay for their power, both residential but also commercial, that there is concern that this is going to have pretty negative effects on North Carolina over the next 30 years as these power companies are forced to pay for the upgrades that they are wanting to do to their, or being required to do to their systems, but that they're going to pass that along to us, the customer, rather than take their, take a lower, keep their shareholders happy. So that bill's expected to clear the legislature in the next couple of days and get to the governor and get signed. Still no word on when a budget's going to get worked through. That has
get ready for the dare to stare.
We're having a little technical. There we go. There's still questions about the budget. Still in negotiations, not questions, but negotiations are still ongoing. Still not clear when they're going to get a budget in place, or at least get a bill worked out. It looks like the legislature's got that together. They've sent it to the governor to make his changes, but it appears they have come up with a way to agree on passing a budget for this year, but still no word on when that's going to happen. So it looks like lawmakers are going to be in session at least until next month. Doesn't look like they're going to get out of there before this month. One bill that we have been following has been bringing sports gambling to North Carolina. It's already cleared the Senate, but it looks like it's stalled in the House. It's been sent to the committees. Doesn't look like they're going to work on it this year. So don't expect North Carolina to approve sports betting this year. Maybe next year during the short session. We will see. All right, going to step aside for a moment. When we come back, Dr. Destunis is going to be with us. Stamatia Destunis, who is a radiology expert, actually is the head of the American College of Radiology Breast Imaging Commission. She was with us yesterday, and we had a chance to talk with her as we continue our National Breast Cancer Awareness Month programming here at OBX Today. That's coming up after you see this.
There's a lot I enjoy about working for the Ferry Division.
I've been surrounded by water my whole life, always wanted to work on the water, and the 7 days on, 7 days off isn't bad at all because you can get off and do your hobbies.
It is a great place to work. You can work yourself up. You have to be your own motivator. We cannot do it for you, and it's a great outdoor job. If you like the outdoors, this is a perfect job for you. If you like boats, this is a perfect job for you.
The things I enjoy most about being on the water is, of course, our office, which is spectacular.
I like my schedule, 7 days on and 7 days off, because it does give me time to pursue my other interests.
I've always loved working on the water. I've worked on the water my entire working career. I play on the water when I'm not working on the water. I enjoy the interaction with our passengers.
Working at the ferry is really awesome. You have a week on and a week off. It's a great summer job. We have a lot of college students and high school students that come and work for their summers. But if you want to stay, there's a lot of support. Everybody helps you, brings you up.
Joining us now, Dr. Stamatia Destunis, I hope I got that right, Chief of American College of Radiology, Breast Imaging Commission, and a breast imaging radiologist at the Elizabeth Wynn Breast Care Center in Rochester, New York. Doctor, good morning. Thanks for joining us here, and we appreciate you taking part in our Jam Media Solutions National Breast Cancer Awareness Month programming. We're doing all month long on all of our channels, social media, and our radio stations, and OBXtoday.com and voiceofmuscatine.com. And we want to get right into it with the challenges that COVID-19 has been offering in healthcare across the board, obviously. And one of those big things is breast care and breast health. And one of the questions, I just want to jump right in. Can someone get a mammogram if they've had COVID-19 or are currently diagnosed with COVID-19?
So, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to your listeners. I think, we're all living in different times now, and everyone is practicing great safety measures. So if you've had a diagnosis of COVID-19 months ago or weeks ago, or a more recent diagnosis, it would be best to speak to your primary care doctor and find out if it's safe for you to go in and have your screening mammogram. Having COVID months ago or weeks ago, there's no reason for you not to be able to go in now. But if you've just been diagnosed, you may want to wait. So you're feeling better and it's safe for you, and it's safe for the other patients that are at the center that you will go get your imaging. So speak to your primary care doctor, speak to the radiology facility that will be doing your mammogram to make sure it is a safe environment for you to go in, and then go have your life-saving screening test. Screening mammography is important, so you shouldn't skip it. They may tell you to wait a few weeks. If you've just been diagnosed, that's fine. Reschedule to a few weeks later and then go in and have your mammogram.
And this is a challenge that's been going on now. We're going to be entering year 3 of just general health care, and people being concerned about that because, and my wife works in healthcare as a pharmacist. The last place you want to be when you're not well or other people aren't, a hospital is like the last place you want to go, or healthcare facility, especially if you're worried about what COVID-19 could mean for you. And you just mentioned how important it is to continue to get those annual mammograms, whether a man or a woman, obviously, because men can get breast cancer just as much as women can. But it is, but it really is important to continue to get those yearly checks, even though we still are dealing with COVID-19.
Exactly. So if you have a concern, certainly, definitely most important that you reach out to your primary care doctor if you feel a lump or any changes in your breast tissue, if you're having breast pain, and then they'll schedule you for an exam to come in, and the mammogram will be included along with other testing. It's important you follow through, especially if you have a concern. But even if you don't, and you decided, okay, 2020 with COVID, I'm just not going to go this year, but now I think I don't want you to skip another year. Go in and have your mammogram, because we want to detect cancer the earliest possible. By skipping the mammogram for a few years because of COVID, we're going to find cancers that are larger. They're more difficult to treat. The prognosis may not be as good. You may need more surgery, more aggressive surgery, but also more aggressive treatment after surgery, the radiation, chemotherapy. So we want to find that small, when it's going to be least affecting your life. And we want you to live a long, long life. So the earliest we find it, don't skip your mammogram. Now, men do get breast cancer also at a much lower rate than women. But if there's a family history, if there's a genetic mutation like the BRCA genes, definitely those men also have to have that discussion with their doctors and go get checked. They may need to be screened also in a yearly situation, right? Just like women.
There's updated guidance from the American College of Radiology and Society of Breast Imaging, especially for two key demographic groups, those being minority women, but also those people of color and transgender people. Why is that?
So, we have found out in the research that's being done for the last several years that African American minority women, are much more likely to have an aggressive breast cancer in comparison to white women, and also before the age of 50. And they're much more likely to die and have a poor outcome than white women. So, and the reasons for that may be genetic. So some of this is hereditary. Some of this is the type of breast cancer that African American women are more likely to get, which are these triple negatives. They're more aggressive, and women just don't do as well. So some of it is genetic. Some of it is the histopathology of the tumor itself, but we want to make sure that the minority groups are going for their screening, because we have found that minority groups are less likely to go in every year, less likely to follow up with treatment options. So they present with larger cancers, they're more difficult to treat. And then even the follow-up is a bit more of a challenge. So we want to reach out and educate that the different minority groups need to go in and get screened. Now, the LGBTQ and the transgender community, that's a tough group because they may not feel welcome to go into a radiology practice to get a screening mammogram. They may feel uncomfortable. So we need to do better to make them feel comfortable about coming in. If you're a biological male transitioning to a woman, a female, you're getting hormones, that may produce breast development for you. So now you need to consider that and not ignore that. And you may need to be screened. If you're a female, biological female transitioning to a male, but still have breast tissue, still have ovaries, you may still need to be screened on a regular basis because you're still at risk for breast cancer. So we don't want to ignore those reasons. And we want to make a pathway that's easy for all peoples to be able to get screened and get a screening mammogram, because we want to detect breast cancer early. And it is very treatable. It's a common disease, but it's a very treatable disease, especially when found through screening.
Another barrier, if you will, to getting regular health care in general, but especially with regards to mammograms, is the rural-urban healthcare divide. We really experience that in both our coverage areas in eastern North Carolina and also in the Muscatine, eastern Iowa, western Illinois area, with regards to what people perceive as barriers because of the distance they have to travel for their health care. Is that something that your group and with the American College of Radiology and other groups are trying to overcome? What are some suggestions you have for people who may feel like that there's this rural, or feel like that they're, because they live somewhere, that it takes a while to get there? Are there some resources they can tap into that you're aware of?
Yeah, so I mean, mammographySavesLives.org is a great resource about breast cancer detection, diagnosis, risks, benefits. But I do think that women that may not live in, New York City, let's say, and they need to have care, to communicate with their primary care doctor. Their primary care doctor is going to be able to identify a center, a radiology clinic, or even a mobile, because now many facilities are offering services through mobile. So, to reach women that are unable, because they're working Monday to Friday, it's difficult for them to get an hour away to drive, or half hour away. So we are thinking out of the box. And there are different solutions that we are developing. And that's the one thing with COVID. We realized that, although we're all socially distanced, it's brought us closer together through computer, through different ways of education and reaching people. So I do think that accredited facilities that perform good mammography are available, not just in large cities, but also in the small towns, and women should research the breast imaging center or the hospital radiology department they're going to find out, do they have the latest technology? Are their radiologists accredited and certified? So you can do some of the legwork, speak to your doctor, speak to other women that have had a mammogram, and do your own homework a little bit. But there's a lot of tools and there's a lot of things out there available for women to get their mammogram now, even in a small town that's remote.
There's a magic number when it comes to when women need to start getting their annual mammograms. What is that?
So if you're average risk, if you have no strong family history of breast cancer, if you haven't had cancer before, if you haven't had any precancerous cells at a needle biopsy, so if you're an average risk woman, start at 40 and every year and continue as long as you're in good health. There's no upper limit. We don't believe that at 75, just stop getting screened. Women that are 75 years old are very, very full of life and take care of their families and work, and they're very productive. So we want women to continue getting screened as long as they're in good health. Start at 40 and every year.
And finally, because you got to go, where can women learn more about mammograms, even breast cancer screening, dense breasts, all these different topics?
Yeah, mammography-saves-lives.org. No space in between. Check that website out. Has a ton of great information about everything you want to know about breast cancer risk, about dense breasts, about high risk, about other technologies, about screening mammograms, and the importance of mammography.
And finally, always do this when folks come on from all over the country. Have you ever been to the Outer Banks?
I have not, but I would love to come and visit, but I haven't.
Okay.
But I want to.
All right. Awesome. Dr. Stamatia Destunis,
Yes.
Chief of the American College of Radiology Breast Imaging Commission and Breast Imaging Radiologist at the Elizabeth Wynn Breast Care Center in Rochester, New York. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to your audience, and have a good day.
Get ready for the Dare to Scare 5K and Sweet Treat Fun Run on Saturday, October 23rd. Sponsored by the Dare County Center. The 3.1-mile course begins at the Coastal Studies Institute, winding through Psycho and along the trails ending at the Dare County Center. This is a rain or shine event, with all proceeds benefiting the Dare County Center annual toy drive. So get ready for the Dare to Scare 5K and Sweet Treat Fun Run on Saturday, October 23rd. For more information, to register, or to volunteer, go to www.darenc.com/DC Center.
And welcome back here on OBX Today Live on Facebook and YouTube. I'm Sam Walker as we roll on through this Wednesday morning. And some of the other headlines we got for you today. The North Carolina King Tide Project is looking for your help. We've got a new moon. That means that higher and lower tides than normal for the next week, starting today and lasting through the weekend, through the 12th, in fact. And the North Carolina King Tides Project, which is part of UNC's Institute of Marine Sciences, is asking for your help documenting the tides that are predicted, especially on roadways and in low-lying areas. You can submit photos and observations using what's called the Coastal Observer app on your smartphone. You can download it free on Google Play and the App Store. Accepts photos not only from here in North Carolina, but all over the world. This is the Coastal Observer Project, or the website does. So if you're watching us from anywhere that's along a coastal area, whether it's Chesapeake Bay, whether it's New England, and George, they're checking in with us every morning from Connecticut. If you're close to the water, get your pictures, because this is a way that they're documenting king tides. And king tides are what happens with the new moon each month. They are regular, predictable events. They help visualize how normal high tides could look in the future due to sea level rise. They use the images for a record that can be created of how the shoreline looks now and track future changes. We've got details on the H2O page at obxtoday.com all about that. On Saturday, Coast Guard Station Oregon Inlet responded to a 55-foot boat that ran into some trouble, had their rudder fall off, and started taking on water. They had one engine still running, but no steering, and their auxiliary pump couldn't keep up with the flooding. There was several people on board, in fact, 7 people on board. 5 of the passengers taken on board by a motor lifeboat crew out of Station Oregon Inlet. And they got a pump over there, helped dewater them, then put them in a side tow and took them over to Wanchese to help them out. We got some video of that incident, a call at obxtoday.com. If you're out and about this morning, you may have seen more than usual kids walking and biking to school, especially here on the Outer Banks. All the Dare County elementary schools have programs going on with National Walk and Bike to School Day, which happens every fall. Now, last year it happened in the spring, and back in April last year they had it. And this year, of course, back to its normal first week of October. And there's all types of programs that are going on for kids to learn more about being safe when they're walking and biking to school. It's cool. Kitty Hawk Elementary, one of several that has like rally points at several different places along their routes, because that's one school that sees a lot of kids that walk and bike, as do all the elementary schools in Dare County, and places like Elizabeth City and Edenton and Hertford. Not so much in our rural counties, because there's really no sidewalks and it's not really all that safe, unfortunately, for kids to walk and bike to school. But we've got some details about that at obxtoday.com. So, of course, they have extra police and things like that for today. But always, that's one reason why you see a lot of kids who walk and bike to school. Kitty Hawk being one, probably the most visible. Nags Head, not so much because of the bypass, but Kitty Hawk, obviously, because of where it's located and where the neighborhoods and all that feed into that school are. So, and Manio, especially Manio, that we see a lot of kids that walk and bike to school there. I've got some details from our friends over at islandfreepress.org. There's a scam that's circulating. The Dare County Sheriff's Office warning about this over the weekend. A property tax phone scam, where people have been getting calls from an agency called IBRON, IBRON. They had a 614 number. That's the Columbus, Ohio number. And they claim that they're collecting overdue back property taxes. Once you call the number, they ask questions, Social Security numbers, bank numbers. It's a scam. Each county's tax offices have phone numbers. They're going to get to you by mail. It's very rare they're going to call you. But if you get a call from your property tax office, obviously, then you can verify the number. That's different than this scam that's been circulating, according to the Dare County Sheriff's Office. I mentioned this briefly in our newscasts on our radio stations on Beach 104 and Big 94.5 WCMS, 99.1 The Sound, and the Hatteras Village Pathway is just about finished, a 15-year project in the making. They've just got some punch list items. They were finishing up the crosswalk markings earlier this week. I got to some final cleanup and backfill and some other punch list items, according to Dennis Robinson, who's chairperson for the Hatteras Village Community Center District. This, again, has been a 15-year project. They've been working on this to get a path that runs along Highway 12 in Hatteras Village, from the north entrance of the village up by the Civic Center all the way down to the ferry dock and the graveyard of the Atlantic Museum. There's also a loop that goes along Eagle Pass Road. So that is done and is open for use, although a couple of things still have to be done to finish that up. But great news coming out of that. In sports, last night, Major League Baseball playoffs, the wild card game, the Red Sox beat the Yankees. So the Red Sox move on in the playoffs. And tonight, it's St. Louis and the LA Dodgers. High school volleyball, just a light schedule day. Beargrass Charter at Ocracoke, Camden at Northside. In soccer, Edenton is at Manio, and Northeast Prep is at Perquimans. One football game here locally has been moved. That is Camden and Northeastern. They've moved to Thursday. With the weather forecast, there's a lot of high school football games probably going to get shifted, possibly to Thursday to get them in. Although the rain chances, and we've talked about this before, the rain chances really don't change that much, but they're going to try and get that in Thursday, Northeastern and Camden. We'll keep you posted on Twitter about any other changes that may be coming to the high school football schedule for this weekend. A lot of homecoming games going on this weekend, so that's part of the reason why they're trying to move them, among others. All right, OBX Today Weather Center forecast for today. Partly sunny skies, high around 80, northeast winds of 10 to 15 miles an hour. Mostly cloudy tonight, a low 70, northeast winds of about 10 to 15. On Thursday, partly sunny with a chance of showers and thunderstorms, high 79, northeast winds of 15 to 20. Thursday night, mostly cloudy, some overnight showers and storms. Again, this is not a washout event. This is just some scattered stuff, a low 69. Friday, partly sunny, some afternoon showers and storms in 77 with an onshore wind. Saturday, showers, scattered showers in 78. Same thing for Sunday. Then Monday, Columbus Day, sunny and 80. Tuesday, sunny and 79. So I had a question earlier from Trey. He's got a wedding Saturday at 2 o'clock in Buxton. He's asking very specifically. It's really tough to say. We won't really know until we get closer to Saturday before we start thinking, okay, well, what time is it going to rain? And those can be tough to call. Right now, 50%. That means scattered. About half the area is going to see rain. The other half may not. But it's a better chance of rain, unfortunately, for Saturday and Sunday than the other days this week. Coastal Marine forecast, we do have a moderate risk of rip currents continuing. Only experienced surf swimmers should be in the ocean on all the beaches. It's not too bad out there. I see our live shot from Hatteras Village right now. That's not all that bad. I'll switch it back up to Jeanette so you can see. It's just more of a shore break, but with this onshore wind, it's going to get choppier as the day goes on, and we're going to keep this onshore wind around out of the northeast for the next couple of days. So probably going to stay at a moderate risk, maybe even get a little higher as the winds pick up to a high risk for the back half of the week. We got 1 to 2 foot waves in the Sounds today, seas 3 to 4 feet, and again, those northeast winds at 10 to 15 knots. Our water temperature is still hanging in the mid 70s, roughly to mid 70s. Next tide change in Oregon Inlet, just coming off high tide. Low tide this afternoon at 2:37. High tide tonight at 8:37. Sunset this evening is at 6:38. Sunrise tomorrow is at 7:02. Currently 73 degrees outside our studios in Uptown Nags Head. And that's going to wrap it up for today's edition of OBX Today Live. Thanks for joining us, as always, here on Facebook and YouTube. You can catch us anytime you want. Watch it anytime you want. So you can rewind it, do all that cool stuff. Anytime you miss this out, with you every weekday morning around 8 o'clock here on the OBX Today Facebook page and the Sam Walker OBX YouTube. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great Wednesday, everybody. Bye.